Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shaman's Cave. I'm Renee Baribeau, the Practical Shaman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shaman's Cave. Renee pushed the record button while I was writing notes. Welcome.
I knew it and I couldn't stop. We could start all over again, but now we're in. So,
No, this is perfect. We want people to know that we're really human when we do the show.
we are, sometimes I thought like we've been talking about it for 6 years. Oh, we really should press the record once we get on the phone because we always have these most esoteric and interesting conversations before we ever hit play. And you're just going to have to just imagine what we talk about.
I can see somebody sneaking some little AI being into it.
And yeah, they'll ask AI, what did Renee and Sandra talk about before they hit the play button? You'll be
Yeah,
surprised.
I have a little AI camera so that I can stand up sometimes. And I always wonder what it thinks.
I know I was the other day I was writing and I've been using AI to give me feedback on some of my writing. Not I'm not asking it to write my book, but I'm asking it for I wanted to ask it, so what do you think about this chapter? and I don't know. Then I thought, like, no, I don't know if I could handle, what AI thinks about it. But I may just ask, so what do you think about my book? And please don't borrow it to give to somebody else.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we have an interesting topic for you today. Besides for AI and writing, and whether you think it's the evil stepsister or not, it's here, and I really think it has its own intelligence. But so does what we're talking about today. It has its own intelligence, is pilgrimage. And Sandra will explain.
Yeah. Renee is taking people to walk the Camino, something I've always really wanted to do and the reason I've always wanted to walk the Camino is because of the principle of pilgrimage.
Mhm.
What are you willing to sacrifice for the healing that you're asking for? What are you willing to sacrifice for um, this dream that you're asking for? And every year in New Mexico, outside of Santa Fe, there's a church, and it's known for its miracles. And so right before Easter, people start from Las Cruces. So we're talking hundreds of miles, and they're walking up the highway. So the highway gets really crazy. You have people walking with crosses on their back for days, not sleeping, walking with crosses, gigantic crosses. We're not talking little ones, 6 feet crosses on their back. People in wheelchairs, people on crutches, walking hundreds of miles. This happens every single year. And so, what is it about pilgrimage that's so important? And when I wrote my first article on soul retrieval that went into Shaman's Drum. And after that article, and as I was writing my book on soul retrieval, my power animal, who does all my soul retrieval work, came to me and he said, whatever happens, I don't want you doing any long distance soul retrievals. And I asked him why, and he said, because there was no sacrifice. People stay home, they watch TV, they know that you're just going to do some soul retrieval for them. Where was the sacrifice? I had all these people from Hollywood who wanted to see me, but I didn't want their money because there was no sacrifice for them. That was easy. It was like, what are you going to do to sacrifice? And the last thing I want to say, because I know that this is a rich topic, is at some point I had to move. And I had to move to a location that was actually dangerous to drive to in the winter. And I asked my power animal if I should get an office in town. And he said, absolutely not. He said, it's the pilgrimage to your house that is going to be the most important part of the work. And it turned out to be that it was. My partner at the time, every morning, he would look out the window with his binoculars to see if the school bus drove off the road. If the school bus drove off the road, I tried to cancel my appointments with my clients, but most of them flew in from other places and didn't want to cancel. So they came up this dangerous road, and I lived with a builder who actually watches the Shaman's Cave and is a good friend and a wonderful man. And he never finished the walls while I was living there. So here people had to go up on this road and then walk into this house that didn't have walls. And my healings were never as powerful as when I lived at this house. They were never as powerful because of the fear that people had to go through, the surprise that people had to go through of coming into this house. It opened them up to the power of the magic of the healing that comes from the spiritual worlds that doesn't come through while you're watching TV.
No. When you were talking, I was thinking of the pilgrimages that I used to have to take when I was healing. And, when I was 30, I opened my restaurant, and the next day my father had a massive stroke, and 2 weeks later my stepfather dropped dead of a heart attack. And I quit drinking, but then I went into a major depression. And so I had to take the pilgrimage to the mental hospital, the lockdown ward. But then when I came back, somebody told me about this Ayurvedic doctor in Rochester, and I was in Syracuse. So once a month, I would drive over to Rochester, that 2-hour drive to Rochester, to see this really special Ayurvedic doctor who also practiced acupuncture. And it became the catalyst of my healing, that I would take the time out. I was running a restaurant, that I would drive over there and give myself permission to have that time. That was probably the first. And then, then I had to, going through that healing, it was like, okay, you got to leave Syracuse now because you're not going to heal here anymore. And, I had to drive across the country. That I thought I was, I thought I was going to New Mexico, but I was there for 2 months in the mountain, like the apparition, like the man came in the living room and blew the smoke west, and and I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. And, then I got to the desert, and, I had to sit on the mountain for 3 days and 3 nights. These were all really deep pilgrimages. And so I guess we get a little judgy about when, our students are like, well, I can do this, free call on a one night, but don't ask me to get on an airplane or a bus or a car, I can't afford that, or I can't do that. Where is my teacher? Where is this teacher? Because everyone says when the teacher is ready, the student will come. But sometimes the student has to get in the car and drive cross country.
Right.
And that's what's missing out of our current state of affairs, as far as I can see, is like, what are people willing to do to heal?
Right. Yeah. All the online work, which came up during the pandemic, really changed the world of healing. I absolutely know a lot of teachers and practitioners will disagree with me right now, saying that the veils are thinner between the worlds right now, and remote work is just as powerful as a person being present. And I can see some of that because I do remote work, and I'm seeing people still getting miraculous healings, but I'm seeing something not happening because they just stayed home and waited
Mm-hmm.
for my email. I don't even do Zoom or sessions. I work in my own time. And there's just something that doesn't happen,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, that of the effort. There's something around the effort. There's something around the It's more than effort. Again, because I can see all the pushback from people. It's about the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And there does need to be a sacrifice for healing. When I first moved here, there was a very powerful shaman, and he still is a powerful shaman, and he's known for his beautiful books, Martin Prechtel. And when I first moved here, one of the things I learned about Martin was that you can go, he was a very powerful healer, and you had to make a pilgrimage. He didn't live in town. You had to make a pilgrimage out to where he was. And most of the time you came for your appointment and he sent you away and he told you to come back another day. And that is actually something that is very common in medicine work among Native Americans is, no, come back another time. This isn't a good day. Come back another time. This isn't a good day. Sometimes it's because it isn't a good day for the shaman and they don't work like we do, where you work, whether it's a good day or not. But a lot of times it's to show the commitment. Will the person keep coming back when you keep getting turned away? And that's classic. That's an archetypal kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Of how many times will you knock on the door? What kind of sacrifice are you willing to make?
I think that's really so important. And we're not sitting here saying, oh, you have to suffer and you have to, we want you to be in pain and, dig into the bottom of your purse in order to, there's not, it's not even that, because I do my spirit, I show up in service to my spiritual work because it's what I'm here to do. The fact that I work a full-time job, that's the sacrifice. That's the sacrifice so that I can sit here and have these conversations. And, luckily, sacrifices don't all have to be things you don't like to do. We think, oh, sacrifice, take a knife across your leg and get some blood drawn. But no, sometimes the sacrifices are things that we make choices about, but it could be a good thing. When I used to drive to Rochester every week, I ended up finding this dessert pastry shop that I'd like, and I'd go afterwards and I'd have a cup of coffee and a piece of cake with it. And the thing is that for me was new. Mm-hmm. To drive myself somewhere and sit down and have like the luxury of a bakery and time, that was taking care of myself in a way I hadn't. So I think we have to look at that. Like, so for me, is a sacrifice, this job a sacrifice, or did it help me build a new house? And make me be available to be present. Because if I'm struggling and not present, it's not good for anyone. So right. You have to really look at what you're sacrificing and what are the rewards from that sacrifice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think everybody who's come to a particular place in life realizes how much they had to sacrifice to get there. But there's a belief in the spiritual community now that no, I can just sit back. I can just sit back and let it happen. And sometimes you have to actually meet the universe with so much energy around what you're asking for. And some of the online work what it's done is, yes, the veils are very thin, but what's the level of commitment around your healing, and
Mm-hmm.
how much are you opening up? And opening up usually means that something opened you up, um, and for most people, that's the pilgrimage. It's actually the journey to get to the healing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that most people who are listening now are doing online work and aren't really going for, a lot of you are going for one-on-one healings in person. Um, they do work, the remote healings, they do work. I'm just trying to bring in an aspect of something that we're really losing as a culture that I think it's just good to reflect on. You might have a different opinion, but it's good to reflect on. And I know, Renee, you're getting ready to do the Camino, and I know that it's about creating a change in your life and putting a pause and um, making a change. I don't know if you want to say more about that.
Well, there's so many levels because first of all, it's like there's only so many hotel rooms, so you have to share a room. And for so many of us who like, oh, I'm gonna be those those luxury spiritual travelers who could afford their own accommodations, it's not a choice. So there's that. There's this idea of like you can only pack 33 pounds. So you have to sacrifice what you want to carry. There's and then somebody who can't walk, asked me, Renee, would you film some of the walk for me? And they're like, well, I'd be happy to do that. So that's going to take a little weight in what I'm going to bring to film, some of the walk. But then this is what Aini is. He absolutely, and it came today, sent me the book by Sonia Choquette when she took the walk. And I haven't even walked for him yet. And he's like already responding with, so there's that sense of like all the people I know who want to walk, who won't walk, that I'm going to take on this journey with me as well, including some of you at home. And, I'm kind of social, so I probably will share some posts along the way. But the thing is that there's what I've sacrificed to get here was that I didn't get that COVID lockdown break. I've been in overdrive since 2019. And now Spirit says, okay, now you can go take a walk. So to me, it feels like a vacation too, like I sacrificed all of this so that I could finally be here enough to do this. So I think there's going to be a lot to learn, a lot to gain.
Yeah, and you're doing something for yourself.
I know, right? It's like that coffee that I haven't had in 20 years with a little pastry.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So that's the real gift. And that is part of the sacrifice, is you're making a statement of how much you care about yourself, that you're willing to take this journey for your healing, for help, for time out. It's really about caring about yourself enough. And it's not just about dragging your body. You're actually asking for something. For something for yourself.
And I am at, on a more, more of a level. It's like, I've been working since I was 16 and I'm 66. So I've been working for 50 years, and I'm really evolving into the next phase of my evolution. And I don't exactly know what that looks like. And, I can't imagine me not working. So I'm sure it has that component to it, but it's like, I want to do it with a different kind of spaciousness around it. And I think if that's the one request I'm taking is, how am I of the world and of service to the world and of service to, enjoying, these last 20 some years on this planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
open
like,
to more if I'm having fun.
yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
vision. I mean, I've shared this story. That's how Isis and I connected. I fasted on fruit for 30 days and sat in the over 100-degree heat in the mountain of New Mexico for 4 days without food or water. Finally saw a vision of a grandmother telling me that I had to come into the sweat lodge and lay down. And I had a dream, and that's when Isis came to me and said, I'm coming to you as a teacher to help bring harmony and peace back to the earth again.
I love that.
Would I have met Isis if that was a big sacrifice,
Hmm.
for 30 days for me, and no food or water in the high mountains and during the summer? Um, what a gift that I got. What an amazing gift.
Hmm.
I was willing to make that sacrifice.
Mm. And for any of you at home who have done a hambleche or who have gone on the mountain with no food and no water, there's something, even the vision didn't come right then, but there's something that really happens when you really go out there and cry for that vision. And I'm not saying that it's for everyone. And, maybe Sandra and I did it at a time when, more people were needed that energy of doing that. But I wouldn't turn away any of the experiences that I've had and any of the sacrifices that I made for anything. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when I am 95 sitting on the couch, I'm going to get to reflect on some really magical moments that happened in my life. And as hard as they've been, as good as they've been, as funny as we laughed, it's just this big piece of juicy lemon cake.
Well, that's a wonderful image and experience of thinking about eating a really nice lemony cake right now. So
Right? Everyone's gonna be running off to the store.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. So anyway, sometimes we're not saying that we have the final word on everything. Sometimes we're just trying to bring up a conversation about things that are getting lost in some of the older experiences of shamanism. Some of them are supposed to be lost because shamanism evolves with the culture, with the changes of the culture. And so sometimes it's just nice to reflect on some of the old practices that we don't hear about anymore because we have moved into working with everything with technology now.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you like this conversation, make sure you hit subscribe, hit share. Tell us about your pilgrimages and your sacrifices, and not so much your suffering, because that's a different topic. This is about really making a sacrifice in exchange for a spiritual experience that alters the course of your path. And we'd love to hear about that. And I think that's it from me.
That's it for me. Blessings, everyone.